And here we are talking about Google Plus, deemed the latest Facebook killer by many people. And the question for you is, will it be a +1 because you like it, or will it very much be an unlike? Now, before we talk about Google Plus, it's worth pointing out that this isn't Google's first big foray into social media. A few years ago, it bought Orkut, which to most people in the Western Europe sort of hemisphere, they're going, what's an Orkut? Never heard of an Orkut. If you have a look there, you'll see it looks a bit like, almost like a sort of Facebook meets MySpace sort of combination. And it allowed all the same things, all the same functionality, and you're going, well, okay, that's very nice that Google bought that, but why are you talking about it? Purely because of this statistic, not so much the one at the top, but if you look at the 2011 statistic, Orkut is still relatively huge, especially in Brazil, to an extent also in India, but Facebook has come along and toppled it in India, and will more or less do the same in Brazil as well. So it's one of these things when people say, what platforms do you consider to go onto? Always remember, just because something's big in the UK or the US or France or Spain, doesn't mean it's necessarily big global. Yes, Facebook is, but there are other platforms out there. Russia, China have Facebook beating platforms. But Google Plus is Google's latest version of this. But Orkut still runs alongside as well. But what actually is Google Plus? Let's have a look then. If you have a look there, you'll see it's a fairly straightforward and similar interface to anyone who's used Facebook. Streams down the side, which is similar to your lists. A big stream down the middle, of your friend updates, suggestions for people to follow, a couple of icons. We'll go through it all in a bit more depth in a moment, but there's nothing there that's intimidating or frightening to anyone that's been on Facebook, and as many people aren't fans of the current Facebook, like, this idea of timeline and, the big picture, the wee picture, and the change of information, some folk may find that they prefer going to Google Plus, which may be a wee bit more familiar for them just now. But if you go through Google Plus, we've already seen the front page, but this is what you get. Up the top, there's a couple of icons you click on, for photos. There's a button to click on for your profile. There's a button to click on for circles, which is their version of lists. And all you do there is quite straightforward. Drag and drop people into lists or set up a new list. Sorry, circles. You just drag the icon over and it sets it up. And then you can specify when you're putting out an update if it goes to people in one list, all your lists, or just certain lists. It lets you have more control about where your updates go to. It also has games. Let's not forget that one of the main reasons people spend a lot of time on Facebook is because of games like Farmville, Mafia Wars, Cityville, and so on. So Google has obviously tapped into that to give people a reason to go there and to play. Something else it also offers, which is quite a nice little idea, is this idea of hot or not. It shows you what's trending, what's popular, and that's a fantastic idea. It lets you have a look and go, oh, what's everyone in the world talking about, or what's everyone of interest to me talking about, and from a PR and comms point of view, you can then see if that's worth jumping into or if there's something worth getting involved with. Another nice little touch is the idea of incoming. These are posts that are shared by people who aren't in your circles, but you can then go and make sure they're part of your circle or engage back with them. It's pretty much a nice form of notification, but there is also your more standard notification for being told that you've just been added onto Google Plus, or people who have added you to something. And again, the option is there for you to add them back. It's very much that building the connections, building the network, because remember, all of this stuff in social media is nothing without you going in and providing the user generated content. So having had a quick look at it, is it a place that's worth being on? Is it a place worth considering? These statistics, a snapshot from January 2012 would say you'd have to think long and hard about it. In terms of active members, Facebook's there at 800 million active users. Google Plus, admittedly in its best week, had 40 million active users. For comparison, Twitter claims at this point when this was done to have had 104 million active users. in terms of visits, 15 million visitors to Google Plus in its best day, 1.76 billion to Facebook. Hell of a difference. And to give it a bit of a comparison, YouTube comes in second place with 530 million visits. So, you have to think, are you going to bother? What's the point? Why don't I just concentrate all my time and efforts on Facebook? And it may well be that's what suits you. But there are some reasons you may want to consider Google+. 40 million, still a lot of people. Many of them early adopters who are normally seen to be the influential crowd. If you speak to the early adopters and get them on side, they'll become your brand ambassadors and go out there and promote for you. Strong audience with tech leanings. Very often that means they may also have some spare cash. iPads, iPhones, the latest smartphones from Android, the latest tablets that are not iPads. Very few of these things are cheap. So, a tech audience can have more disposable cash. And if you can get them to spend some of that on you, then that's an absolute winner. Similarly, many people are just plain old sick of Facebook. They don't like the timeline, or they don't like the changes. They don't like the fact that it's being sold off in an IPO. There's lots of different reasons for why people may not like it. And this gives them a chance to still be social. Now, one thing that Facebook did that attracted some criticism, but it hasn't changed, is that it doesn't let you export your data from Facebook to Google+. You can export your data, but just not directly. And one way of doing it is through Yahoo, so you may want to bear that in mind. But it's seen as Facebook's considered it a threat, so that's why they've done this. But also another reason for doing it is it would be daft to think that Google at some point is not going to have this be part on more and more of their algorithms and their SEO returns. So if something's really popular in Google+, that may give it a nice little shove up the SEO rankings for Google searches. So something to bear in mind. Again, if you do something cute on it, Barack Obama did a little stunt on it recently, and that got some publicity because it was the first time a president had done it. It was the first time Barack had done it, and there are some unique features that you can use. Hangouts being the best example of this. Now, White and Mackay actually did the first brand hangout globally with this, and it was before Google were even allowing brands to have brand activity online. But White and Mackay got round that by using whiskies from a bunch of their brands, from Jura, White and Mackay, Dalmore, Fettercairn. But there was also this idea that their master blender Richard Patterson is huge online. You can find him at @_nose on Twitter, and you can find him on Facebook. He has a blog. This is a man who has a strong social media presence, so he wanted to do it. It wasn't White and Mackay doing it. It wasn't Dalmore or Jura doing it. It was just White and Mackay, who have been online, very ahead of the game in terms of social media compared to other brands, getting out there and doing something. This was just doing something good. And what they did with the hangout was whiskey drinkers in Israel, the Netherlands, Scotland, England, Wales, and a few other countries basically received a bunch of samples and hooked up live with Richard. And I know people may be going, oh, big deal. This is something that we now to an extent take for granted, but they were able to hook up in decent quality. Richard was able to show them all the whiskies in his room. He was able to give them a tour of his sampling room. He was able to show them bottles up close and in depth, and it worked very, very well. As you'll see there from the side, you can actually have text updates going in at the same time as everyone's chatting. But as people talk, they become the big screen, so you can see who's talking. Everyone sees each other. Those images down the bottom aren't static. As you'll see from just looking at this image, they have changed a little bit, so people do change. You can see in real time what people are saying and doing. Fantastic. Now, the only slight downside to it is that it's not in any sort of HD. Skype HD does do it a little bit better, and also the likes of FaceTime, if you've got a Mac, iChat can do it a lot better as well. But this again is a cracking little free comms tool. You can even sit, if you want to watch a movie in YouTube together, you could put something on YouTube and then you could sit and almost director's cut sort of commentary through it. It's a great little tool. It's useful. It'll be integrated in similar ways to other products. No doubt Facebook and so on will catch up. You know, Facebook already has Skype integration, but for now, you know, Google Plus Hangouts are a really, really nice tool. You know, they're really smart, really sweet, seamless to use, and with things like hangoutgraphics.com, you know, you can give yourself a nice little sort of news style text banner. You know, that's a way, here's my name, who I am. Again, that's something that's free. Something else that's very useful is gplus.2, which means you can take your long Google name, which you can see in the bottom right hand side there, but cut it in and give yourself a lot simpler, you know, almost like a vanity URL that you would have in Facebook. So that makes a lot more sense. You know, it's a good idea to have, and it's a good idea to do. Now, similarly, you know, it's not all about the individual, especially if you're a company. You want to do business pages, you know, and that's what a business page on Google Plus looks like. Again, no different from another Google Plus page, but also very similar to a Facebook sort of page. You know, as you can see there, you know, there's not a lot. You know, the core data is still the same, and you know, there's a look at how Mashable does it. You know, so you can add more in there. You can keep it going. You know, it's just another channel for you to update if you want to. And again, it comes back to that core question of make sure there's a reason to do this. You know, do you have it as a Facebook backup? Do you just have it to make sure you're reaching out to people there? But again, you know, make sure you have the time to do so. You know, you've got the time to check in with what people are saying. You've got the time to engage with people. These sort of things are very key, you know, important questions to ask. Now, one thing that will no doubt be resolved, but it's for many it can be the difference between going on or not, is you aren't allowed a vanity URL for a business yet on Google Plus. So you have a ridiculous sort of web address like that one at the top, as opposed to the more elegant facebook.com/whitemackay at the bottom. And again, this will change. I mean, Facebook is continuing to evolve what it offers businesses. So Google will do the same on G+. For the moment, many businesses seem to be setting up on it just to make sure they're not left out. You know, they're not doing a lot with them, but they're setting the page up, they're updating the page, they're checking in now and then. But, you know, Facebook is where their action still is. You know, they're just covering their bases. But, you know, it's worth bearing in mind that Google can be ruthless when it comes to getting rid of products that don't work. So if this doesn't take off in the long run, by which I mean, you know, 12 months to a year, you know, from now, there's a chance that Google may scrap it, and that will lead to a bit of frustration. Though, of course, bear in mind that most social networking platforms do fade away eventually. You know, MySpace is not what it was, Bebo is not what it was. One day Facebook won't be what it is, and something else will come along. What you have to ask yourself is, you know, do you think that's going to be Google Plus, and are you willing